one thing that I noted last night watching, the telecast and hearing Chris Collinsworth over and over again and everybody on the broadcast continually tell us Lamar Jackson looked like a man possessed, and you could tell the drama and like how much it mattered to him. And he was playing so passionately in that game and he wanted it so bad. I think the Ravens as an organization did. So what you have is a Ravens team that I have high expectations for that I still think is very good. They came out with the thunder of the gods, and it wasn't enough. Like, let's be honest here. Like, the Ravens, they got to clean that offensive line up because they'll never reach their potential as an offense if they can't keep Lamar upright. If I want them to be able to push the ball downfield to Zamor, which I think should be a part of this offense, how in the hell do you do that if the minute your quarterback drops back, he's suddenly having to take that new lean body frame and wiggle around everywhere to try and make himself time? Like, this is one thing that we all have to, and I have to do this too. We have to remind ourselves that real football is not video game football. And as great as your weapons look on the outside, where you feel like you can push the ball downfield and everything's going to go great, if your 5 fat guys in front can't beat their 5 fat guys in front, you're screwed. And we saw that last night over and over and over again for Baltimore.
Going to be very interesting week 2 to see the Ravens offensive line, to get a better idea of, was that the Chiefs defensive front or was it their line has real serious problems? Because you're right, if the whole offense can't be 3-yard passes to Zay Flowers until he hit Likely, and I want to talk about him in a second, until he hit Likely for that long one. I think I said in a broadcast his ADOT was 1, like his average depth of target. Like it was crazy how short he was throwing, but they had no choice. I mean, Mark Andrews was blocking a lot. Let's talk about that real quick. Like, boy, I have Mark Andrews in a few fantasy leagues, and I'm already like RIP. Like, I think Isaiah Likely made a statement last night of, yeah, I'm here. I'm not going to stay off the field anymore. Like, you guys are going to have to feature me. He looked awesome. I mean, from beginning to end, he just looked like one of the best tight ends in football. And but yes, with the Ravens, I think if you're being realistic about the Ravens, again, for 3.5 quarters until right at the end, I thought the Chiefs really controlled that game in many, many ways. And if you're the Ravens, you have to be, you can't just say, oh, we came a toe away from a 2-point conversion to win the game at Arrowhead. You can look at it that way, but also you have to be real and say, why couldn't we get Derrick Henry going in a run game? Why couldn't we block in the pass game? I think you're going to have some serious come to Jesus moments and say, what do we need to fix before week 2?
Mark Andrews with 2 catches for 14 yards on 2 targets.
Man,
Isaiah Likely with 9 catches for 111 and 12 targets. Isaiah
if he's
Likely
on your fantasy team, make contingency plans right now. Yeah. Oh yeah. It was no doubt who the guy was. And I texted Charles Robinson, our colleague, and I'm like, man, this Mark Andrews thing. Like, and he's like, yeah, I could have told you that. I went to camp and Likely was obviously the guy. I'm like, why didn't you tell me then? Why didn't you tell me? I could have avoided drafting Mark Andrews after he went to camp. But alas, yes, if you own Mark Andrews in your fantasy team, you might want to start making other plans now, because I don't know that he's even the best tight end on his own team anymore.
Well, and I was disappointed. Obviously, part of this comes to the offensive line, but Derrick Henry had 13 carries for 46 yards. That's not the workload I would have expected for Derrick Henry to have in this game.
They just couldn't get, like, every time they handed him the ball, Chris Jones was in his lap or somebody was in his lap. Right. Like what do you do? It's almost like you want to run the ball, establish a run, but if you know you're going to get 2 yards, like, okay, I get it. Like, I understand it was almost like a repeat of the AC Championship game where they didn't run it at all, but he was very ineffective, and not because I didn't think Derrick Henry looked particularly bad or anything like that. I just thought their offensive line couldn't block.
Well, and when you end up with a game where Lamar has 16 carries and your new superstar running back only has 13, and you end up with a game where Lamar threw the ball, attempted 41 passes, that shows you lost balance. Like, you were chasing the whole time. And that's something that they're going to have to figure out, because, again, I think the balance of that offense is the opportunity for the beauty in that offense. But if your offensive line can't keep anything going, you're just not going to have that. And also, let's acknowledge the fact that, the sky, if the Chiefs had lost that game, the sky's not falling. They're in a division that they're going to win. All expectations is that,
really?
You can count Raiders on the Chiefs. Well, Raiders going to be a surprise playoff team, but okay, I can't even say that with a straight face. But on the other side, the Ravens, I mean, they're about to be in the fire, right? Like, we know that division is going to be very good. The Ravens are going to have to clean some of these things up, because, frankly, I don't know that they're going to have time and grace to be able to, lose a little over the first month and this just sort of work out the kinks, because you and I both expect that the Bengals will be very good. You and I both expect that the Browns could be good depending on Deshaun Watson. So if you're the Ravens, you got to get this figured out. You got to get this figured out quick.
Yeah, you do. You're right. You're totally right. The two situations are different, but I mean, in Chiefs situation, you're chasing obviously history. You're chasing a 1 seed. You still have things, even if you're going to win your division by a mile, and they will. I think we all know that. That you're still chasing. You don't want to give up some games, but I think the Ravens. Yes, that division's gonna be really, really tough all year. And there's no shame in going to Kansas City and losing. Probably, literally everybody's going to go to Kansas City and lose this year. I don't know that they're going to drop a home game, but you're right. You can't let this become now we're 1-2 or whatever it's going to be. They need to figure this out.
I mean, let's be real. The Ravens play the Raiders next week. I think that's going to look a little different, especially trying to establish the run against a team that I think this year is going to struggle.
Look, the Raiders. What do the Raiders do well? Their defensive line.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm not saying the Ravens are going to pull an upset or anything, but if I'm the Ravens, I'm a little nervous about, we got to face Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins. And that line's got to get it together pretty quickly. That's the one thing that if the Ravens are going to get derailed at all this season, and by derailed, it's probably like a 9-10 win season, that'd be disastrous for them to win 10 games, right? And not win a division and maybe be fighting it out in a wild card. They're still a high floor team, but the one thing that could kind of set them back a little bit would be the offensive line. We saw that last night.